Yo. Welcome into the ChrisBeCappinn Show, man. I'm gonna be pretty precise and pretty concise with the looks for today. But welcome in. Today is the September the 26th. 2 WNBA games on the board for today, and we shall break them down. On Tuesday, the last time we had games, I didn't bet anything. I had some really strong leans, but didn't end up pulling the trigger on any of them. The sides and the totals were correct. I think the totals were the over between the Minnesota Lynx and the Phoenix Mercury, thinking that Phoenix would bounce back offensively. They did. And then the under in the Aces and the Indiana Fever games. I was right on both of those, but I didn't bet any of them. Hopefully the analysis helped you guys make your picks and you guys made some cash. So let's jump into it. I don't even have time to go through Jackson for today, but the link is in the description as it always is. Let's jump into game number one. So we got the Aces and the Fever. Aces bounced back in a big way, ended up blowing out the Fever in game two. They beat them 90-68. We saw the Fever offense go from shooting 50% in game one, to 41% in game two. They shot 35% from the three-point line. Game really was over with at the end of the third quarter. A lot of the starters didn't play in the fourth quarter. So now we got the Aces 1-1, in Indiana, where they struggled all season long. I actually had this pulled up. I was looking into this, I think on Wednesday, and the Aces have played against the Fever in Indiana twice this season. They lost both games outright. Both didn't cover either one of the spreads. Actually got smoked in both games. They were laying 5-2 and lost by 27-10. So the two things that were consistent to me is that the Fever, this new version of the Fever that's kind of depleted offensively. I say depleted offensively because they're missing so many players, but they're just a very grimy, get it out the mud, defensive oriented style team. And when I say defensive, I don't mean that they're the greatest defensive players. They gave up 90 points against the Aces, but they kind of muck the game up. They play very physical. And if the refs are going to allow them those calls to be made, then the Aces could potentially struggle again. Either way, I think the Aces bring it defensively in this game. And that's what I would lean on. The totals are 2-0 to the under when the Aces have played against the Fever in Indiana this season. And I think we see that again. The Aces have only averaged 62.5 points. Will they win the game? I think that they will win. I think they cover the spread, but I'm more confident in the under. I like under. It's a 163 right now on DraftKings. If I'm betting the game, that's the way I'm betting. From a player prop perspective, I do have time just to go over and show you guys the one that stands out to me. And I know I said under in the last game, under 166, I think, even though the total was only getting pushed up. I like the under. It was a contrarian look and it hit. Aaliyah Boston, I also going back to the well with Aaliyah Boston. If I'm betting player props, you can see that she, in game one, her assignment for the series is to slow down A'ja Wilson as much as she can. I still believe she's the best defender in the WNBA to be able to handle A'ja Wilson. And we'll see. A'ja is, of course, capable of having big performances on the road. So I think that her primary responsibility will be to keep Aaliyah Boston. Aaliyah Boston's primary responsibility will be to keep A'ja Wilson in check, on the defensive end. So 6-10 is what she's averaged so far. She has the best defensive, arguably the second best defensive player based on awards, tied for the second best, for the best defensive player that she's going to have to guard, Aaliyah Boston, with A'ja Wilson on the opposite side. So you can see that she shot 33%, 56%, but she stayed under the 13.5 points. So I like Aaliyah Boston under her 13.5 points. You can see that she's hit it the last game against that they played during the regular season as well. So that's my look on the player props for this game. I like Aaliyah Boston. We'll go back to the well if I'm betting anything there. If we jump back here, so two top looks would be under 163. Like I said, available on DraftKings, and then Aaliyah Boston under her 13.5 points. Even though she is at home, I think Asia's gonna make her life difficult, and I like that look a lot. And then I would lean towards the Aces being able to get the job done, man. I think being tied, they got to come in here and take home court back, and they should be able to win the game by 2 possessions. But I don't think I'm gonna bet that one. Maybe live, but we'll see. All right, next game up, last one on the board, and I just kind of put everything here. So if you guys want to screenshot this or go to ESPN, you can see the numbers and the differential between the two teams based on game one and game two. But this is more so game one. Aces kind of blew it open early, never really looked back. So now we got the Lynx in the Mercury game we played in Phoenix today, and the Mercury did the unthinkable, man. They were able to go into Minnesota. Minnesota had, I think, lost just 3 games at home all season, and they were getting blown out. That's the craziest part. Minnesota won the second quarter 27-13, 14-point margin in the second quarter. They already had a 2-point lead at the end of the first quarter, so they were up 16 at halftime. And then the Phoenix Mercury happened, held this Minnesota offense to 31 points in the second half outside of overtime, and end up scoring 47 points of their own. So, I mean, the Mercury were really able to turn it around in the fourth quarter. In the second half in general, winning the third by 8, which typically we see Minnesota smash teams in the third quarter, and won the fourth quarter by 8 to force overtime, and then end up winning overtime 10-4. So this was unprecedented by Minnesota. And it was the tale of 2 different halves, man. Minnesota turned the ball over 18 times. As a matter of fact, I did put that here so you guys can see it. Yeah, Minnesota turned the ball over 18 times, led to 21 points for the Phoenix Mercury. On the season, Minnesota was second in the league in limiting points off turnovers. So I think the Mercury shot a little bit better from the 3-point line as well, 40%. I'm not expecting that to continue, even though they are at home where they do typically play better. I think we see the Lynx play some of their best defense in this game as the series goes on. We typically see, a little bit of aggression as teams make adjustments. Shell Reeves is one of the better coaches in the WNBA, and we got to give Nate Tibbetts some credit as well. He was able to, bring his team into Minnesota and still a win as well. I looked into a lot of angles, man. Minnesota. So I looked at teams that come back down 20 points or more to win the game, and then they're facing the same exact team, 2-0 straight up and against the spread in the history of the database. I know it's a short sample, but that leans towards the Mercury. I also found that Phoenix was a perfect 4-0 straight up and against the spread when they're facing the same team that they recently played within the same season, this season. To me, that proves that Nate Tibbetts and his coaching staff make the necessary adjustments, even though we give Shell Reeves a lot of credit. I also found on the Minnesota side of things that they're 10-1 straight up, 6-3-2 against the number coming off a loss this season. They won by an average of 11 points in those games coming off a loss, and they're 5-1 straight up, 4-2 against the spread in revenge spots this season, winning by an average of 8.5 points. So Minnesota typically bounce back. The Mercury typically plays well when they're playing the same team. In the next matchup, what really stuck out to me was the under, and I'm not sure if I'm actually going to get there, but the under makes the most sense based on all of the research that I did. Phoenix was a home dog 6 times this season. Those games were 5-1 to the under. They averaged just 148 points. So they played really well defensively as a home dog. If you date back to over the last 12 years, teams that have played an overtime game and then they're facing the same exact opponent in the next game of a playoff game specifically, those games are 7-2 to the under. They average just 150 points. Series games 3s overall in the playoffs are 57% to the under, 29 and 22 to the under, a perfect 4-0 to the under if those games are coming off overtime game as well. And then, like I said, Phoenix shot 40% from the 3-point line. In those games this season where they shot 40%, in their previous game, they're 11-3 to the under in their next game, including 7 straight unders, 5-1 to the under if they're dogging the next game. So this says that the under happens. I know it's a super low total. Maybe I take it live, but that's what makes the most sense to me, man. So real quick, gave you guys 3 looks that I'm looking at. And I think Minnesota wins the game too. But so if I'm betting the game, I am taking Minnesota just because I know Phoenix is fully healthy. I know they have momentum now, but I'm not betting against Minnesota off a loss probably the whole season. Probably just going to go down with that shit, man. Minnesota minus the 3, Leah Boston under 13.5 points. The under between the Aces and the Indiana Fever, and I don't know why I have an eye right here. And then the under in the last game as well. I think the best number you can get is I didn't really consider too many team total unders, but I'll give you guys another one. We'll add another one. You can get under 159 right now on Fanatics, it looks like. So Minnesota and Phoenix under 159.5. So the total has gone up just a little bit, but majority is 158.5. So maybe something live, but I think both of these teams at their core are really good defensive teams. I don't really trust either one of them offensively against each other, especially with the coaches having more opportunity to prepare. And it's only but so many adjustments you can make, and they're going into game 3. So this is the list for today. As always, check the resources out. They're linked in the description. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. Smash that like button if you guys are new. If you guys are old, if you've been rocking with me since 2021. And turn the notification bell on so you guys know when I go live or when these videos drop, man. NBA season right around the corner. I'm still kind of catching up in the NFL, but I'll have plays Eventually, maybe some this weekend. We shall see. Best of luck on your action. Enjoy your weekend, man. I'll catch you guys in the next one.